The introduction of copyright laws in our society was a brilliant idea. They protect the innovators of the world by granting them exclusive rights to the work they create. As students, the basic idea of copyright is seared into our brains at a young age. For as long as I can remember throughout my years of schooling, the rules of plagiarism were always a priority in every student code of conduct book. The penalties for violating such rules were always severe, and looking back, I appreciate these rules because they laid the groundwork for us as children to understand the importance of respecting the work of others. Fast forward a decade and a half or so, and here I am, much older and wiser than the kindergartner I was when I first learned the basics of copyright in my student code of conduct books. Now, rather than just understanding that plagiarism is bad and that it will get me kicked out of school, I understand why these rules are set in place to protect authors, artists, poets, musicians, and really anybody in today's world. If people don't have the sense of security to protect their own ideas, inventions, and creations, people will no longer invent nor create. Copyright laws allow the world's creative minds to share their work with the world without becoming vulnerable. In a world overrun by technology, ideas move faster than ever before. In the past, most ideas were tangible. Nowadays, the idea for a new app or a new software is oftentimes an idea in an individual's mind. For example, I'm constantly trying to come up with new ideas for smartphone apps to improve people's daily lives. I bounce ideas back and forth between a few closely trusted friends. However, I always question how I can put my plan into action without it being stolen along the way. But as copyright laws become more important than ever, they are also becoming more difficult to enforce than ever. Much of today's innovation comes from intellectual property, or creations of the mind. This poses a problem because intellectual property lawsuits are definitely no day at the beach. And because the internet allows ideas to be spread much faster, intellectual property is becoming harder and harder to contain. The Napster lawsuit that began at the end of 1999 was a prime example. Users of the website that shared files were freely taking money out of the pockets of the artists who were producing their favorite music. And since the Napster days, the music industry has continued to engage in an arms race against small websites who offer similar services to customers by essentially providing copyright infringement and piracy activity. But this is an arms race that I unfortunately don't see ending anytime soon. It's safe to say that few industries rely on copyright for their existence as much as the music industry. Technology has led to the creation of online music outlets such as Amazon and iTunes that allow customers to buy individual songs rather than complete albums. Vinyl records and even CDs have been replaced by more portable listening options like the iPod and smartphones. Because of this, we've seen the introduction of streaming websites like Pandora, SoundCloud, and Spotify, which provide their users with access to tons of new music. When I took financial accounting during my junior year towards my minor in business, each student in the class had to research one company and review its balance sheets. I chose Pandora. What did I find? I found that Pandora has a very uncertain road ahead due to its royalties that are due. Pandora's largest debt are the royalties it owes to artists. Much of Pandora's success is misleading, and the company is barely, if even, turning a profit. While Pandora has gained fame, the company has been accruing royalty payments to those who are actually creating the music. And essentially, the stock has stayed afloat thanks to some savvy business tactics, not the fact that the company provides a sustainable music alternative. Although websites like Pandora and Spotify eventually pay the artists and publishers, the playing field has changed. These players, the artists and publishers, are not seeing the compensation that was available in the golden ages of music when vinyl records were in and platinum records were plentiful. The decrease in their download sales is not being offset by the income they make from these streaming sites. At some tipping point, people will realize how difficult it is to make ends meet as a musician, and creative minds will be discouraged from entering the industry at all. But aside from the music industry, the conclusion I've come to is that the violation of copyright laws has the potential to put the evolution of our society at a dangerously alarming standstill. As a student of science, I've learned the theory of evolution over and over for years. But on the topic of copyright, I'm talking about the evolution of ideas and productivity. I'm talking about the evolution of our culture, the evolution of our arts and music. Cheating copyright laws means cheating your fellow humans. If the members of our society would rather copy others' ideas instead of creating their own, our world will cease to progress. In my first semester of college, I took a class called History of Rock and Roll. I learned about the evolution of rock and roll since its earliest beginnings, and I learned about the societal and cultural movements associated with rock music and music in general. One of the most interesting aspects of the course that I enjoyed was the introduction of new genres of rock. I liked learning about the radical evolution of rock music from the Beatles through Bruce Springsteen to the Ramones.